I think for me, looking at that, the news articles leading up to that week, it wasn't until actually, a week out, getting close to that date, that I actually looked at it and heard and listened, and then realised what it meant for my family, Just brought up all those emotions, that pain, that old history of hurt, and that experience of my mother, my grandmother, and what her mother went through. And then to see that my family's today, looking at, well, where's my family been? Cherbourg, and Torres, another mission, then up to Cairns region somewhere, whether it was Yarrabah or Mona Mona. We never found that sister of my grandmother's. So I think just before we even got to that day where, Prime Minister said sorry, it was just all that lead up and all that emotion that came out. All that had been on for a number of weeks and leading up to that, it just sort of finally hit me that I listened to what was going to happen, like a milestone in this country history. I guess then for me after that, it was just full speed ahead to try and, get this luncheon organised for the community in Brisbane. After getting all that infrastructure and the bookings happening, we thought, okay, well, it's coming closer to 12 o'clock and the community is gathering now, so as we actually came out of the offices, the people were just everywhere. The hall was full. Outside on the lawn area, people just everywhere, cars parked, You think, well, what does it mean for each and every person that was here? My husband, he's been teaching some of the kids from the Southside Education School, so, there's a lot of groups that he'd been teaching, so I said, hey, get a group together and they're going to come and do the corroborative to open that day, so. And on the day then, when the group got up to dance, Raymond asked anyone else wants to join the group, so we had a few people just popping in off the floor, young people, old people to get up and dance, And so the significance of, that corroboree, the song and dance and calling and making that connection for our ancestors, to bless the gathering on bless the people here and the business to be done at this gathering. And it was real touching to see that the young people are getting up and doing that. And looking at that group, you can see that some of those kids have been affected because their parents have been taken away. These kids grew up on missions, their families, their parents, You see that spirit still in them there. They were keen to get up and they're hungry for that. This is the start of it, saying sorry is the start and acknowledging what wrongs have been done. So we really want to see some genuine commitment from this government here to help and support in making a better, changes for a future for the children.
My name's Jeremy Robertson, and I grew up in New South Wales in a town outside of Wagga, or Wagga Wagga. The town is called Coolaman. I did primary school, moved back and forth from New South Wales to Queensland, New South Wales, Queensland, New South Wales, Queensland. With my mum being Aboriginal and my dad being Chinese as well, I never really grew up on liking both sides either. I just stuck straight in one society. Because I never grew up with racism or hate or I grew up with plenty of hate. What kid doesn't, right? But not growing up with racism or being torn by two worlds, white and black. When I first came to ACPA, I thought everything was going to be cool, that nothing about personal life or personal history brought in. You're there to do a job. But being there for so long, you get an awareness that there is racism, not just from one side, but from both. There are stereotypes of Aboriginal people, but also stereotypes of other people as well. I don't really call other people there's only black and white, because everybody knows there's more than just two colours in life. Everybody has to live in grey. Why should everybody live just black and white? But when it comes to talking about the sorry day and stuff like that, truthfully, I didn't even know what stolen generation was until basically last year. I heard that it was something bad that happened in Aboriginal history, that something was going on and that people were taken. That's all I heard. I didn't realise it was stretched so far. Coming here and learning more about it, I realised that Kevin Rudd didn't need to say it, shouldn't have had that responsibility. It should have been said when these terrible crimes actually happened. Why did we need to wait so long? if the sorry was said back then and that next step was taken, where would we be now?
I remember very clearly that it was a day that meant an enormous amount to me. I remember it as a day of quietness for myself and a sense of contemplation and reflection. I was very conscious of it being a very serious day for me and for all Australians. I thought very deeply of my friendship with a wonderful person who in 1978 at Groote Eylandt, walking on the beach, talked to me about the stolen generation. It was the first time I'd heard her story and the stories of that generation. I thought of her all through that day, and what she brought to my life, a depth and an understanding and a knowledge. Over many years we kept in touch. I remember a young man who was here for lunch one day with a group of young Indigenous leaders. I remember this very handsome young man who shocked me a bit when he suddenly said, "What would you have to do to get the Indigenous flag flying here at Government House?" I just said to him, "I'll think about that." I look back and I'm very glad that it was a day when we flew the Indigenous flag on the roof of this building. That was of significance to me as the Governor and a way of sending a message. But what's very important about it to me is that I think it gives us a way forward, a new determination across this country to close the gap. The most powerful figure out of that is the horrific 17% gap in life expectancy, those health issues. But I think it's a very good term when we're thinking in our hearts about what we can do, every single one of us as individuals, to address in 2008 and in our futures the recognition of the dignity and worth of every person in our country.